The New York Knicks lost on Monday after Jalen Brunson was called for a foul on Aaron Holiday as time expired at the end of the game. That's not a foul. The Knicks didn't think so either and ended up filing a protest to the NBA the next day. They proposed replaying the final 8.3 seconds or just starting a game in overtime. Not only are the Knicks likely to lose this protest, they're also going to lose out on $25,000. That's how much money they had to pay the NBA to set this process in motion, and they only get it refunded if their protest is upheld. Which, when looking at protests, the key phrase is a misapplication of the rules, not a judgment call like we saw with Jalen Brunson and Aaron Holiday. But when was the last time a team won a protest? Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and today we're dusting off the history books back to December 19th, 2007, when the Miami Heat visited the Atlanta Hawks. Now, this was not the Miami Heat that you probably remember. They did have Shaq and Haslam and, of course, D. Wade, but in the 2007-2008 season, this Miami Heat team finished dead last in the NBA at 15-67. Oh, they also had Alonzo Mourning, but more on him in a bit. And while the Atlanta Hawks weren't great, they did have some notable names like Josh Smith, Al Horford, and Joe Johnson. The game that night was close for 48 minutes. In fact, no team had more than a double-digit lead at any point, and it ended up going into overtime. But that's when things got weird. With 51 seconds to go in overtime, the score was 111-112. The Hawks had a 1-point lead, and Shaq gets called for his sixth foul on Al Horford. In the NBA, players only have a 6-foul limit, so once Shaq got his sixth foul, he had to sit out the last 51 seconds. The final minutes played out, and the Hawks win 114-111. Except that Shaq didn't foul out. Late in the fourth quarter, the guy doing the bookkeeping accidentally gave Shaq a foul when it should have gone to Udonis Haslem, meaning that Shaq should have been eligible to finish the game and play the last 51 seconds. And my first question is, does Shaq not know? Like, do they not have a counter in their head that's saying, wait, I only have 5 or I only have 6? That's weird to me. But anyway, Pat Riley gets wind of this, files an appeal the next day, and it's upheld. They scheduled the rematch for March 8th, 2008, when the Hawks will visit the Miami Heat for their last meeting of the year. Now, the stipulations were they're going to restart the clock at 51 seconds and play the final minute of that game as a redo because of the misapplication of the rule with Shaq fouling out when he actually didn't. Then the teams would get a 15-minute break, and then they'd play the game that was actually scheduled to be played that night. So what ended up happening on the March 8th rematch, and why is it hilarious? Because less than 2 months after the botched game, but before the March 8th game was played, Shaquille O'Neal was traded away from the Heat to the Phoenix Suns, which, you guessed it, means Shaq didn't even get to play in the rematch, which was the whole reason the rematch even existed, so he could play in the final 51 seconds. Just let that sink in. And while you do, here are some fun facts about the rematch. The first is that no one scored in the final 51 seconds, and the game ended 114-111. In other words, it was a complete waste of time. A waste of time without the players playing that were supposed to be playing because of this being played because of them. What's absolutely hilarious and also confusing to me is if you go look up this game on ESPN and you go to the overtime tab, you scroll down, the last thing entered is Shaq's foul with 51 seconds left, score 111-112. There's nothing else listed. I have no idea who scored those last 2 points for the Hawks. The last 51 seconds was played 2 times, yet the data is nowhere. The second fun fact is that December 19th, the botched game, was actually Alonzo Mourning's last game in the NBA. Before all the Shaq nonsense took place, he went up to block a shot, came down wrong on his knee, and they actually brought the stretcher out for him, and he looked at them and in so many words said, "This is not the way I'm ending my career. If I have to crawl off this court, I will." And it would be his last game in the NBA. The third fun fact is that the Phoenix Suns also played a game on December 19th, 2007. So when Shawn Marion was traded to the Heat, he was then eligible to play in the rematch, even though he did not play in the original game. So Shawn Marion, if you look at the box score, is recorded playing a game on December 19th because the box score from the overtime rematch, the 51 seconds, was just added to the original box score. So if anyone ever decides to look at the box scores from December 19th, 2007, they're going to see that Shawn Marion was on 2 different teams in 2 different cities, playing for 2 different franchises on the same night. The fourth and final fun fact is that the Heat would go on to lose the regularly scheduled game by 3 points, meaning they lost twice in one night. And while Shaq didn't play that night, he got the better end of the deal, playing the next day, recording 14 points, 16 rebounds, in a win. I'm all for games being called correctly, but these redos are so confusing, I hope we never see another one.